And our scripture reading is Matthew chapter 5, verses 1 through 2 and 8 through 9 from the Lamsa translation of the Bible. When Jesus saw the crowds, he went up to the mountain, and as he sat down, his disciples drew near to him. And he opened his mouth and taught them, saying, Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Thus ends the reading of the scripture, Matthew chapter 5, verses 1 through 2 and 8 through 9. Our sermon lesson today focuses on keeping our balance in this rapidly changing world through the discipline of non-attachment. 2020 has been a year of major changes and challenges. And to add to that, it's an election year where we soon are going to be bombarded with all types of political ads. How do we cope with everything that's going on around us? Today's lesson shares with us a tool to live in this world, but to learn that we don't have to be of it. To maintain our spiritual peace so that we may experience and live in our spiritual bliss right here on earth. We create our world and our reality with our thoughts and with what we allow into our mind. These thoughts can build us up, or they can tear us down. They can create our spiritual bliss, or they can rob us of our peace. We want to be mindful of what we create with our thoughts and what we absorb into our consciousness. And only we hold the key to that door. So it is important to use discretion and to choose wisely. We wouldn't let just anybody walk through our front door. And similarly, we don't want to allow just anything into our mind. Likewise, we want to be mindful to practice the discipline of non-attachment. The goal of non-attachment is to realize that our joy dwells within, and it is not defined by the car we drive, our job title, or how big our house is. When we are spiritually fulfilled, we continue to experience joy, regardless of whether we sell that big house, and regardless of whatever is happening in the world. In other words, they don't define who we are. We are spiritual beings, and our spiritual fulfillment is what is everlasting. Now, don't be mistaken. This doesn't mean that we don't care or that we have no compassion. We still care very deeply. It just means that we don't give these worldly things a parking space in our consciousness and rob us of that joy within. Practicing this discipline helps us to attain a state of being where our happiness does not depend on anything or anybody in this world. When we are not attached to worldly situations, or we are not defined by worldly things, we are free of heart. During the course of the day, some of us may experience so much coming at us from all different directions. Our work, the update on the evening news that COVID is spreading, being concerned on whether our kids go back to school, and if we continue homeschooling, how are we going to juggle that and our daily work schedule? And who is going to win the election? And this can go on and on and on. Every day, there are new challenges. And if we are not mindful, this can all overwhelm us and eventually rob us of our joy. It is good to be informed, but we learn to be informed without being overwhelmed. As I read posts on Facebook or watch the news, I can become quite passionate about what's going on in the world, and particularly about this upcoming election. But then I remind myself to step back and to not internalize it all. And I consciously work to bring that pendulum back into balance. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's always easy. Many, many times I began typing that quick reply to Facebook, but then I paused before I clicked post. And I thought about it. And I thought about it some more. And slowly my finger went to hit that backspace button until there was no response. But I felt better. And I felt better, and as I did it, I can feel myself detaching from the situation. Again, it's not that I didn't care, but I wasn't attached to it. And I felt lighter. And I realized that my becoming angry or frustrated wasn't going to change the situation. And as I said earlier, practicing non-attachment is a discipline, and we are a work in progress. And we learn to be informed, but we learn to do it also from an observer point of view. We can care deeply and have compassion for what is happening in the world and to others, but we don't have to own it, and we don't have to make it ours. And we don't have to take it in so deeply that it affects us at the very core of our being and robs us of our peace. We want to protect our sacred space and to learn to create a certain amount of distance between us and the world. And non-attachment helps us do that. It enables us to maintain our peace, regardless of the storms of life and who said what or did what. And we are better able to maintain our spiritual joy. The UMC Fourth Declaration of Principles states that we create our own happiness or unhappiness as we live in harmony or discord with natural, physical, and spiritual laws. And I cannot stress enough the importance of personal responsibility, of accepting and acknowledging that we create our own happiness or unhappiness, of taking the time to understand the choices that we have made have led us to where we are today, of being responsible for our thoughts and for our actions. Many times, others don't do it to us. We do it to ourselves. Natural law is not a religion, but rather natural laws are laws that govern our lives And they were put into place to provide guidance in living a fulfilled and harmonious life. They are not intended to punish us, but rather they are a framework to steer us in the right direction and to help us succeed. And one of our natural laws is the law of balance. And balance is about finding our equilibrium. Finding this equilibrium to create harmony in our lives. Think of the pendulum. When it swings all the way to the right, what's going to happen? You got it. It's going to swing all the way to the extreme left. And it will continue that swing on these extremes until we bring it under control. And until we bring it to that still point in the middle. When we are out of balance, it can create and cause an unwanted or negative reaction. For example, when we become so angry or frustrated, we may react in a way that we later regret. Many times on the news, you hear about crimes of passion. And when we're angry and frustrated, that's when we need to hit the pause button. To hit the pause button and take a deep breath and recenter ourselves. And depending on how far that pendulum has swung, we may need to take several deep breaths and an extra long pause. Through our spiritual practice and discipline, we learn to find this equilibrium and to create conditions in our life where the pendulum is not swinging severely. And when it does start to swing, we are better equipped to recognize that and to bring it back into balance more quickly. Practicing non-attachment will help us to create and maintain this balance. Andrew Jackson Davis, the father of harmonial philosophy, gave to us the magic staff. He said, "Under all circumstances, keep an even mind." I'm going to repeat that. Under all circumstances, keep an even mind. He goes on to say, take it, try it, walk with it, talk with it, lean on it, and believe on it forever. This proverbial staff was intended to remind us to use wisdom. By keeping an even mind, it helps us to stay balanced. And the magic staff is the reminder to pause and look at situations objectively. Consider what effects our words or actions may have. Think before speaking or acting. As we ground ourselves in our spiritual consciousness, we can objectively listen to and consider different points of view. And we can learn to do it without taking it personally. Scripture says, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." The kingdom of heaven isn't a place. It is a state of consciousness. And the best part of it is that we can live in heaven right here and right now. And we have the key to open this door. The key is to maintain our inner peace and to live with a pure heart. To be a peacemaker, one must be at peace within themselves. To still our mind, as we did in our meditation this morning. And one way of doing this is by keeping our balance through non-attachments. If we want to change the world, we have to first be what it is that we seek. And then we want to be mindful and purposeful of what energy we add to the collective consciousness. We live with a peaceful heart in all we do, and we share this peace with the world. A peacemaker can bring calm and understanding to a turbulent situation. A peacemaker can shine the light on situations that are clouded in the shadows. We can neutralize the energy by sending healing and love. There are some paths in this life that we walk alone, and our path to self and God realization is one of them. As the gatekeeper of our mind, it is important that we not only filter what we allow into our consciousness, but that we are also mindful of what we attach ourselves to. Practicing non-attachment is a discipline that helps us to maintain balance and keep an even and objective mind. And in doing so, we create the conditions of living with a pure heart, so we may experience our spiritual bliss. With a peaceful heart, we can live in heaven, right here on earth, and we can shine this light upon all of humanity. Now is a time when the world needs our love and our healing. And let us unite together with the intent of sending healing and envisioning unification in the knowingness that we are all one. Blessed are the pure of heart, for they shall see and know God. Namaste.